Abandoned in Death by J.D. Robb. Chapter 2. In the shallow light just before dawn, Lieutenant Eve Dallas badged through the police barriers to study the body on the bench. A tall woman, and lean with it, Eve took in the details. The position and the condition of the body, the distance of the bench from the street, from buildings. A faint breeze stirred air that, while morning, cool and teased of summer. It fluttered around Eve's cap of choppy brown hair, and stirred some cheerful scent from a concrete barrel of flowers by the bench. For once, her partner had beaten her to the scene. But then Detective Peabody lived only blocks away. Peabody, in her pink coat and cowboy boots, heaved out a sigh. Really close to home. Yeah, Eve judged the victim as mid-20s, Caucasian female. She lay peacefully and fully dressed, with her hands folded over a childish sign that deemed her a bad mommy. Run it down for me, Eve said. First on scene, responded to a flag down at approximately 06:45. A female licensed companion got out of a cab on the corner, walked down toward her apartment. Peabody pointed west. When she passed the bench, she saw the victim. She assumed a sidewalk sleeper, and states that since she had a really good night. She was going to leave a few bucks on the bench, and when she started to realized not sleeping, started to tag 911. Then saw the cruiser make the turn, and so she flagged the cops down. We've got all of her info, so Officer Estep escorted her home. Did you ID the Vic? Lauren Elder, age 26. She lived on West 17th. Cohab Roy Marsden filed a missing persons on her 10 days ago. She attended a bar at Arnold's, upper class bar on West 14th Street. I've been there. She didn't come home from work the night of May 28th. Detective Norman out of the 4-3 caught it. Todd? Cod? Hadn't gotten that far, McNabb. Here he comes. Eve glanced over to see Peabody's main dish. Electronic detectives division's hotshot jog toward them. The strengthening sun couldn't hold a candle to the orange glow tea under a floppy knee-length jacket. The color of irradiated plums matched with baggies of mad colors that might have been spray-painted by insane toddlers. His sunny ponytail swung. His forest of ear hoops sparkled. No cams on this area, he told them. Low security, quiet neighborhood. Sorry. Since you're here, can you knock on doors with the first on the scene? See if anyone saw her dumped here. With her record on, Eve crouched, opened her field kit. Victims identified as Elder, Lauren, female, age 26, missing since May 28th, and held against her will by the look of the marks on her right wrist and left ankle. Her clothes appear undisturbed. If there was sexual assault, the killer dressed her again. Frowning, Eve sniffed, leaned closer, sniffed again. She's wearing perfume. Full makeup, too, Peabody commented. Perfect makeup, and her hair is unmused. Yeah, nail polish looks fresh. A woman held against her will isn't usually so worried about appearance. He fixed her up. That's how it went. Bad mommy. She doesn't look like a mom, does she? More like the let's party type. Maybe mommy is a sexual deal here. Frowning again, she pulled out micro goggles that bent down to the midriff exposed by the short, glittery top. This belly bar thing, I think that's I think that's recent. It's still a little red. Me to confirm, but that looks fresh to me. Why does anyone stick holes in their navels? If I had those abs, Eve spared Peabody a glance. Odds are she didn't get a choice about the piercing. With one finger, Eve loosened the black ribbon, or having her throat cut. Jesus, he stitched her back up. And carefully, definitely, the dump spot. He didn't do all this to her here. And that's your COD. He took out a gauge, TOD 22 20. Perfumes stronger up by the throat. Let's see if we can get a sample for the lab. I'm betting there's product in her hair. With a sealed finger, Peabody touched the victim's hair. Yeah, it's got setting gel. Maybe spray too. Told that spiky style. We've got Harvo, queen of hair and fiber. She'll nail that down. Our prep left us a lot. We can ID the makeup, any hair gunk, maybe the nail polish. Let's find out if these are her clothes, because maybe not. Curious, she pried off one of the shoes, a little tight, not her size. Same polish on the toes, and perfect. She's really clean too. No way can you be shackled for over a week and stay this clean and shiny. So I washed her. Maybe they can ID what he used on her. I'm not seeing any other injuries. Nothing to indicate he knocked her around. Peabody had secured a swab, bagged it. Let's turn her over. Together they rolled the body. Tattoo, lower back, big butterfly, blue with yellow markings. This is fresh too. Peabody, it can't be more than a few days old, and it's not all the way healed. It looks professional. I mean, it sure doesn't look like a home job. A way of branding her? Peabody wondered. The piercing? Maybe. Making her into some image. This is what I want. So, this is how you'll look. Is she blonde in her ID shot? Yeah, but her hair is longer. Past her chin. A smooth bob in the ID shot. Peabody shook back at her own dark hair with the red tips. Brought up the photo on her PPC, and see, the makeup's more subtle, more natural. Nothing on here, since I'm looking for identifying marks, like a tat. Image somewhere in the prep's head, Eve concluded. And she was adjusted to fit it. Her next of kin's is Flatbush. Eve scanned the details on Peabody's handheld. Both parents will take the wit, the coab, then do the notification. Let's call in the sweepers and the morgue. Then we'll get a follow-up statement from the LC. Eve stepped back, looked at the playground, the climbing things, the sliding things, the spinning things. This is going to be Bella's playground when Mavis and Leonardo move into the new house. And you and McNabb. Hell, number two kid when it gets here. Yeah, like I said, close to home. Eve's eyes narrowed. We're going to bust the killer's ass for murder. And we're going to bust it for screwing with Bella's playground. The witness said wouldn't add up anything, so they drove it to the victim's apartment. Decent security, Eve noted, studying the building, bypassed the buzzers, mastered through the locks into a small lobby. Clean. We're going to three. And ignoring the set of elevators, she took the stairs. She worked at Arnold's 4 years. Peabody read off the data as they climbed. College before that, hospitality major. Busted for disorderly conduct twice. Looks like college protests. No marriages. This was her first official co-op. Parents married 29 years in Flatbush. She was the oldest of three. Brothers aged 24 and 20. Oldest is in grad school, youngest in college, and both list their primary address with the parents. Eve heard the mumble of morning shows behind closed doors when they came out on 3. Otherwise, the floor was nearly as quiet as the stairway. She pressed the buzzer on 305. No palm plate, no door cam, she noted, but solid locks and a Judas hole. She saw the shadow pass over the peep. Those locks snapped open quickly. Roy Marsden stood about 6'2" in bare feet. He wore suit pants and a dress shirt still untucked, and held a mug that smelled like fake coffee. He wore his gold-streaked black hair and dark, short dreads that crowned his raw-boned, dark-skinned face. His eyes, wide, deep-latched onto Eve's. He said, "Lauren." "Mr. Marsden, I'm Lieutenant Dallas." "I know who you are. I've seen you in court. I saw the vid. I know who you are. Lauren. God, Lauren. Say it fast. Please, say it fast." She'd already broken his world, Eve thought, and said it fast. "I regret to inform you, Lauren Elder is dead." His hand went limp instinctively. Instinctively, Eve reached out, grabbed the mug before the contents spilled. "Can we come in?" I knew. But I hoped. I kept thinking, she's so strong and smart, and, but I knew because she'd never just, I need to. He turned, walked to one of the 2 chairs in a compact living area. A ruthlessly clean one with a small sofa, a few tables, and a lot of street art. A pair of windows, uncurtained, but privacy screened, looked out over the street. He sat, seemed to shrink into himself, then got up again to circle the room. I can't. Just can't. I need it. Mr. Marsden. Mr. Marsden, Peabody spoke gently. "Can I get you some water?" No, nothing. Lauren, didn't come home. She didn't answer her link. Buddy said she left at 2:30 night shift. She had the night shift, so I was sleeping. And it was morning before I knew she didn't come home. I went to bed and she didn't come home. He turned back, those wide, deep eyes full of tears. I was sleeping. Not shock, Eve thought, because some part of him had known, but grief overwhelming. Can we sit down, Roy? I should have waited up. It wouldn't have mattered, taking his arm. Eve led him back to the chair. She set his coffee on the table beside him. Took the second chair. I'm sorry for your loss, Roy. And we're going to do everything we can to find who hurt Lauren. We need your help. It's only a few blocks to walk. We got this place because it's only a few blocks. How long have you lived here? Peabody asked, though she'd already read the data. 6 months. We started seeing each other a year ago in March, and we got this place together. He shut his eyes, ignored the tears that tracked down his cheeks. Doesn't matter. She matters. What happened? What happened to Lauren? You're a law student? Eve asked. Yeah. I'm working with Delroy Gilby and Associates this summer. And taking a couple of night classes so I can get my degree this fall. What kind of law? Criminal. I want to work for the PA. I want to prosecute criminals. Heat burned through the tears. Now, more than ever, I know I have to pull myself together. I know I have to answer questions. I know how this part works, but please tell me what happened to Lauren. If you understand how this works, you know we're in the very beginning stages of the investigation. We can surmise Lauren was abducted on the night of May 28th. You filed a missing persons report. Detective Norman. Yes, and we'll coordinate with him. He said she left the bar like Buddy said. They were the last ones. They closed it and they left. And he walked to the subway, and she started home. Buddy wouldn't hurt her, okay? He's a friend. And they checked it. They checked the cams in the subway and everything, and he, the detective, couldn't find anybody who saw her after. He would have asked it, but I'm asking it. Do you know of anyone who'd want to hurt her? An ex? No, I mean, she dated before me, but we've been together more than a year, and people move on. She wasn't stressed about anything or anyone. She never said anything about somebody bothering her or watching her. There was nothing she'd have told me. He picked up the coffee, set it down again. Was she raped him? The medical examiner will determine that. But she was fully dressed. What was she wearing when she went to work? Detective Norman asked that. They have kind of a uniform at Arnold's, so black pants and a white shirt. She wore her black low tops because she's on her feet behind the bar. Uh, Jewelry? Uh, I gave her a ring when we moved in. Not like an engagement ring because we weren't ready for that, but a silver band, a thumb ring, so that she, so that her wrist until her unit. Her parents gave her a nice one last Christmas. She isn't much for a lot of it, but she usually wore these little rubby studs shaped like hearts. Ruby is her birthstone, and her grandparents gave them to her when she turned 21. One for each year? Yeah, she's kind of conservative. So, no other piercings? No tats? Lauren? A ghost of a smile came and went. Oh no. Wait, he jerked up. Maybe it's not her. You sure it's Lauren? I'm sorry. We're sure. How? I mean, how did she die? What did they do to her? I'm going to fall apart again, okay? I need to know. There were abrasions and lacerations on one of her wrists and one of her ankles that indicated she was restrained for some time. My on-scene examination indicates a severe neck wound caused her death. They cut her throat? He closed his eyes again, then covered his face. 1 second. Give me a second. Her family. I have to tell her family. We talk every day. They're going crazy, and I have to tell them. We're going to notify your family when we leave here. It's best if we tell them. Could we see the bedroom? The bedroom? Oh, sure. I have a little office, too. It's more of a closet, but you can look in there. I can open the comp for you. You can look at everything that will help. We appreciate that. He rubbed his eyes. Eve saw his shoulders tremble before he stiffened them. I need to contact my supervisor. She gave me her personal contact when Lauren went missing. I need to tell her. I'm not coming in. That's fine. When can I see her? When can her family and I, see her? I'll let you know it as soon as that's cleared. Roy? But me? She couldn't be in better hands. I remember from the vid, and I've seen him in court, too. You'll find who did this. You'll find who treated her this way. When they left, Eve had a good sense of her victim. Lauren Elder had close family ties. Her mother had done several of the street scenes on the walls, and she kept a photo of her family on her dresser, a beach vacation scene from the background, and everyone mugging for the camera. She'd kept her clothes a little on the conservative side, Peabody had confirmed it. Ordered it in the closet, she'd shared it with her co-op. She hadn't gone for a lot of frills, a lot of sparkles. Her ambitions had run to one day owning her bar. One day owning her own bar. She kept a memory book of photos, family, her circle of friends, co-workers, so loyal and sentimental. She'd lived within her means and kept a careful record of tips, considerable, which led Eve to believe she'd been good at her job. Nail polish and minimal markings in her supply. Whoever the killer had wanted her to be, she hadn't matched the image inside. They made a nice place. Peabody settled in for the drive to Brooklyn. You can tell most of the furniture, family cast-offs, but they made it nice. I don't think he's going to be able to stay there now. It's too much them. He's been waiting for us to knock on the door since she went missing. He wasn't ready, because you never are, but he's been waiting for us. Her family wouldn't be ready either, she thought. Contact Detective Norman, fill him in, and get his files. We'll need to talk to the staff at the bar. So let's see if we can set that up. At least to start with Buddy, since he was the last that we know of who saw her. Now, Buddy's his actual birth name. Buddy James Wilcox. Who names their kid Buddy? Buddy's parents. She had a routine. Eve continued and whipped around a slow-moving Mini. Roy said she'd had the 7 to closing shift for the last 8 months. They tried to grab dinner together about 6, and she'd had to work by 6:45. He'd head to his night class at the same time, except for Sundays when they both had off. Mondays for her and Saturdays for him. Some Saturdays he'd hang out at the bar for a while, but mostly he studied. Work nights she walked home between 2:15 and 2:30. Same route, 3 blocks north, 1 east. She was nabbed on that route. Did he get lucky, or did he know her routine? He knew. That's how I see it. She was the type he wanted. Needed a consult with Myra, but that's what plays. Her age, coloring, build. Something about her hit the marks, and he could do the rest with the clothes, the tat, the hair. He kept her for 10 days, Peabody added. Plenty of time to make those adjustments. The tat, at least, is fresher than 10 days, I think. A good-sized tat, with detail, Peabody pointed out. Had to take a couple hours. Precise work, maybe a pro. But is she going to stay still while you're poking her, while you're poking all those needles into her flesh? Even though the thought of it had Eve's back muscles quivering. You could strap her down, but there'd be movement if she was conscious. I'm going to get a tat. In reflex, Eve nearly hit the brakes. What? Why? What? Not right now. This minute. I have to decide on what and where. Just a little one. Peabody held up her thumb and index finger to indicate an inch or two. I'm down to the back of my shoulder or my ankle. Something girly, maybe. Something girly carved into your living flesh forever. That's why it has to be the exact right symbol or image. Tiny needles injecting ink into your body, which you pay for on purpose. Maybe a thistle, Scottish symbol, because McNabb, but maybe a rainbow. You can do two rainbows, one on each ass cheek, or a crescent moon with a little star. Peabody continued unperturbed. Those are my top contenders right now. It's a big decision. Yeah, praying someone. Paying someone to pump ink into your skin's a big one. Now let's move on from voluntary self-mutilation and back to murder. Self-expression, body art, whatever. The entire conversation just weirded her out. Murder, at least, Eve understood. We'll see what Elder's toy said. We'll see what Elder's talk says. But I think it's a safe bet she was drugged for a good portion of those 10 days. Still, you need a nice private place to do all that. You need transport, private residence, or exceptional soundproofing in a multi-unit. With a multi-unit, you'll need a private entrance, someplace to keep a vehicle, maybe a private garage for the whole deal. Did she know the killer? From the bar? Her old neighborhood? Her new one? He rolls up. Hey, Lauren. Bartenders are usually friendly types. It's part of the job. But why would she willingly get in a vehicle when she is only blocks from home? Check the weather as she went missing. Otherwise, maybe he'd lured her in. Hey, Lauren, take a look at this. Or he's parked along the route. Maybe it looks like he needs help with something. Or just grabs. He got her into the vehicle. No head wounds that showed on the scene. But if he bashed her, that could have healed her. But if you bashed her, that could have healed up. And Morris will find it. Jabbed her for the drug. That's more likely. Jab, load her in, drive away. Eve played it out like a vid in her head. It wouldn't take half a minute. Partly cloudy, no precipitation. Low of 62 on May 28th. Peabody lowered her PPC. Not the kind of night you would jump into a vehicle for a couple of blocks. She'd walk the route. Even Eve thought. Family notification had to come first. But she wanted to walk in Lauren's footsteps. See what she'd seen. If she didn't know him, how did he choose her? He had to see her and want her. Had to want her to choose her. At the bar? Is he from the neighborhood? Say he spots her, studies her, decides on her. Maybe he starts parking the vehicle along the route, and she gets used to seeing it. Doesn't think anything of it. She rolled it around and around as she crossed the bridge into Brooklyn. Who's Mommy? That's going to matter. If it represents a sexual thing, he'd rape her. Or she'd rape her if the killer's female. If Mommy is Mommy, that's 50-50. Ew. Didn't octopus have a mommy deal? Octopus? I don't think they'd screw with her mothers. Do they know their mothers? How do they know? Peabody wondered. They all have weird heads and tentacles. No, the guy with the complex, and the mother banging it and rolling, and the mother banging it in the eyes. Oedipus, I think Oedipus. Oedipus, octopus, Oedipus, all creepy. So maybe the perp wants to bang his mom, but mom isn't all about that. So he creates a substitute. Or she was, and that effed him up. So a substitute, or it's some other mom deal, and he doesn't want to bang her. Why kill her once you create her? She's not the real deal. And she's not banging him right, or giving him what he needs. She's not the original. He was always going to kill her. Why do you think? Because he's shithouse crazy, Peabody. You don't do all this unless you're shithouse crazy. 10 days, 10 months, whatever. The crazy's going to crack through the control eventually. The perfection of the tat, the piercings, the makeup, the hair, the clothes, that's control. Precision. So he's got to have that. But under it, shithouse crazy. And following that logic, Peabody turned to Eve. He's going to need another substitute. Yes, let's hope he doesn't already have one picked out. Eve followed her in dash directions to a pretty house with a pretty yard on a block of pretty houses and yards. Father's a mechanic, owns his own place, Peabody began. Mother's an artist. You saw her stuff in the Vic's apartment. She runs a local gallery. I guess both the Sibs are home from college for the summer. Somebody's probably home. Let's find out. Eve got out of the car and prepared to destroy someone else's world. By the time they'd finished, the emotional overload had a headache trying to drill through the crown of her head. She programmed coffee, black for her, regular for Peabody. It reminded me of my family. Peabody let out a sigh. Not free agers, but they're tight. They'll get through it, but nothing's ever going to be exactly the same. You can check out the couple of ex-boyfriends they gave us. If nothing else, it'll block that avenue. We'll take the bar next. Then you can split off. Check out the exes for what it's worth. I'll take the morgue. Morris should have it at least started on her body by the time I get there. Need to close off the avenue, Peabody agreed. But I can't see... But I can't see... either of the X's they gave us. I think we're looking for older. So did she, but Eve glanced over at her partner. Why? Their 20s or early 30s can't have it. And we've dealt with younger organized killers. But you had the control and precision with needling, almost for sure. A private space, a vehicle, and the killer could be female. Daughters have mom issues too. She'd have to be strong enough to load a struggling or unconscious woman into a vehicle. Unless we have a team. And it could be siblings, even. Siblings, Eve considered it. Both obsessed, severely pissed, or sexually attracted to their mother. Not impossible. Interesting, even. Easier for two to do the snatch and grab, the transporting. But the kill was one stroke from the look of it. Then again, the second could have done the sewing up. You'd think that the ribbon covering the wound could be signs of remorse. Then the sign contradicts that. The sign was like a kid's printing, and with the thing, crayon. Right. A kid thing. Made her pretty. His, her, their version of pretty. Dressed her up and put her near a playground. Another kid thing. Who's mommy? His, her, their mommy is still alive. Is she still alive? Already dead? Mommy didn't have much fashion sense, Peabody commented. I mean, her clothes were just tacky. Cheap. Maybe she couldn't afford better ones. The jeans were ripped. I've seen pictures of my granny in jeans with holes in the legs when she was younger. A free ager thing? Don't all you guys sew? Wouldn't she sew up the holes or whatever? I don't know. Maybe it was a thing. I'll check into it. But the top, really short, and all the spangles, and the shoes, really dressy and tacky, out of style. Shoes with the weird jeans comes off kind of slutty, especially with the overdone makeup. Fashion might not have been Eve's area of expertise by a long shot, but she followed Peabody's line. Mommy could have been kind of slutty, which may be part of the issue. Or he, she, they see her that way. Or he, she, they want Mommy to be slutty. I really need to talk this out with Myra. We've got to find the logic in the shithouse crazy, so we need a shrink. With the manager's cooperation, they spent an hour at Arnold's interviewing coworkers. More tears, no new information, and more confirmation of Eve's sense that the victim had a solid, happy life, enjoyed her job, her circle. The bar struck her as solid as well, if a little pretentious. It wasn't the casual neighborhood place you'd belly up for a brew, but where you'd take a date to impress, or a client to apply with a fancy drink, or a client to apply with a fancy drink served in a fancy glass on a table with low lights flickering and a little potted plant. It served tidbits like organic squash blossoms and goat cheese truffles. She couldn't see ever being hungry enough to put either in her mouth. When she said so, outside the bar, Peabody shook her head. They're pretty terrific, and the pancetta shrimp, pancetta, pancetta, pancetta crisps are totally mag. You can make a meal. You make a meal later. Go into Central, check out the X's, update Detective Norman, and get me in a time slot with Myra. I'm going to walk the Vicks route and back before I hit the morgue. They split off, and Eve walked into the not quiet, warm, late spring sunshine. She saw some tourists who never seemed to know how to actually walk on a sidewalk. Several kids and babies in various pushcart things. A man walking a pair of tiny, hairless dogs who could have passed for large rats. They yipped, darting at her boots as she passed, and the man scolded them in sugary tones. Now, sugar and spice, be good doggies. She saw well-maintained homes and tidy buildings, busy shops, restaurants with patrons sitting outside the spring air, sipping drinks or having lunch. A few homes had front yards separated from the pedestrians by fences, more ornamental than functional. Flowers bloomed or spilled out of pots on doorsteps. A team of three efficiently washed the windows on a duplex. A woman carrying a pair of market bags hurried up to the door of another. Traffic streamed by, almost pleasantly. It was hard to beat New York in the spring. Nothing could beat it for her at any time, but spring added some shine. She stopped in front of the victim's apartment again. Roy still had the privacy of the screens engaged. In the apartment below his, a woman sat on the windowsill, busily washing the window. It seemed to be the day for it. She started back. She decided a decent vehicle parked along the route wouldn't cause attention. A beater now would be but a decent ride, a clean one. Who'd notice? And the Vicks block, especially the Vicks block, would be quiet at night, almost entirely residential, and the restaurants would be shuttered and the bakery and deli closed. A 5-minute walk at night, a couple of minutes more if she'd taken it at a stroll, less if she jogged it. Home base, familiar, no worries. And in seconds, it only would have taken seconds, everything changed. And all because Eve was sure of it. She'd looked just enough like someone else. Bad mommy. Okay. If you made it to this point in the video, thank you so much for listening in. So the reason why I started doing this is because that reading has never, I've never been the best reader. At least I haven't been the best reader in my recent years. I used to read quite a bit growing up. It's cooled off quite a bit, especially when I got into my teen years. And now that I'm in my 20s and I'm working again, I finally have my full-time job. It's it became apparent to me that reading it is a real deficiency in my life right now. So I started reading it again, and I started recording it to help mark my progress. And that is one of the things I focus on in this channel. Is my progression through life. You can tell that this because I have an autobiography series that is still going on. I update that series every so often, and I'm still working on the episode for my high school years, which I'm about halfway done with the script right now. It's taken me some time. It's taken me quite a bit of time. Because, well, it's my high school years. A lot will happen during that time, and a lot did happen during that time. So, I'd like to say thank you all so much for listening in and helping me progress through life. Well, I should say thank you for letting me tell you about my progression through life, and I will continue to do so. But I will also continue to make videos that are more entertaining. Videos that like the Amber Heard saga, or Amber Heard versus Johnny Depp, I should say, or my sports videos, because I also create those videos to monitor where my thoughts on a specific topic were at one point in time. And that's also part of progression in life, because, well, your thoughts are likely to change over time. I know it took me going through years as a communication studies major in college to learn that. Or at least make it even more apparent. But anyways, thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.